So, hello everyone, and welcome to our first class after midterms for GAMPRG2. So, today, we'll just discuss yung next project nyo and a little bit of a lecture for pathfinding. Technically, di naman kailangan, pero eh, just something na good for you to know rin. Kasi medyo madali naman yung ano pathfinding. It's just that there are multiple ways to do it. There are people who follow yung sa YouTube. Problema lang how they implement it. Hindi tama. And then it's not working. But we'll brainstorm on it later. Okay. So is your second project. Your second project is a tower defense game. Let me put this on the side. So itong tower defense game, it's a little bit simple. The enemies are not too complicated. They're just three types. It's the ground, the flying, and a boss, right? And they don't even attack towers. So yung towers lang yung medyo complicated. They have buffs and debuffs. They even have different. They even buff yung mga towers mo. They even give money, more money, etc. So that's where it becomes a little bit complicated. So if you've played tower defense games like Balloons or if you're all the way back from Warcraft, ayun, yung mga tower defense games. So yung assets, you could use yung sa Unity 3D. I will post this later on para it's easier for you to extract. Kasi ito, you'll have to use Unity to get these meshes, to download it, and then bring it back to Unreal. So I will upload na lang a zip for you guys for this. If you want to use this. If not, you could always use naman other tower defense templates wherever you find. Okay lang. But again, mas okay na meron kayong meron kayong ginagamit na mesh or whatever so that it doesn't affect your aestheticness grade, right? Because remember, aesthetic, it's 10%. Okay? Ayan. So there are lots of tutorials online, but they follow a certain way. And our way of tower defense here may be a different. So kung iba siya and you're following doon online, baka mali yung gawa nyo. So you could get some ideas from there. Okay lang. Get ideas from videos online. Maybe play some tower defense games, get some ideas, but try not to 100% copy the ones that you see online. So the learning outcome of this will be promoting reference and tracking of objects for the performance scalability of the game. So we don't want to be get all actors from class every tick. We don't want that. We don't want to get all overlapping actors from Sphere every tick, because that's of course that's gonna affect your performance quite hard. So we'll have to promote a better way of doing that. Next, implement systems that require heavy polymorphisms. So one of the systems that you need is the towers, right? So towers, not oh, there are towers kasi that at normal attack they just shoot projectiles, sure. But there's some towers that don't. They just apply a debuff to the enemies around. There are some towers that target your own towers to buff them, right? So heavy polymorphism. We're thinking of how do we make a unit or a tower that could work for multiple kinds of towers. Next, implement systems require heavy abstraction where solid can be applied. So same thing. Usually for towers. This one you can also think of for maybe creating components, especially like for buffs and debuffs. You could create that. You can have some abstraction there. Control dependencies. This you've been doing with your C++. So it's usually just not having um, not having to put your dependencies on your header file, not having to have your, not having your, let's say, units have a reference of let's say the spawn, the spawner or something. Oh, ganun. So you've been doing this. We've been trying to control yung mga dependencies. Next, understand apply solid principles. So we'll discuss this maybe throughout the papuntang finals. Write robust base classes. Again, this is for your towers. Next, implement systems require multiple components working together. Uh, Mostly buffs, debuffs. Make use of events to loosely communicate with systems. So this will really test your knowledge on event dispatchers, right? Because we don't want everything to be tightly tightly connected to each other. So we have to use uh, some systems so that they can communicate loosely. Implement UI using MVC patterns. So this one you've been well using widgets. Usually you follow this, but you have to think about controls in their widgets. What does this mean? Because we're gonna have to press buttons to spawn something. So we have to think, should some logic be in your viewing component, your widget, or should we put it in somewhere else, like your player character or your controller? Ayun. So kailangan nyo isipin yun. Next, separation of data and behavior. Implement systems that make use of the same data driven by different behaviors. This one, knowing how to spawn yung mga enemies, the waves. So know the balance between abstraction and concretion, know the balance between intuitiveness and efficiency, finally write self-documented code. So important ang pag-comment. Because sure, if you work by yourself, sometimes you don't need comments. But the moment someone else reads your code, me in particular, there are times I don't know. I have to fully understand your whole code just so I know what's happening. So it's good to have comments around. Maybe not just for you, but for other people. Yes, the session is recorded naman, so you can watch this later on. I'll post it later. Okay? So game rules. So just like any tower defense game, you understand the tower is an object, it's fixed in place, and it shoots at enemies to stop them from reaching the point. Right? So the level is broken down to 10 waves. So these waves contains different kinds of enemies. So up to you how many yung enemies, pero uh, as long as it's 10 waves. So all the enemies are just gonna walk to the core. That's it. They're just gonna follow a path, and then when they reach the path, the core's health is reduced by 1. And remember, the core's health is the player's health. And we'll have multiple cores. So pag kailangan ng isipan, how can we lower the player's health when it hits the core? So, ay, you get to that. Next, when the core health is depleted, or the player's health technically is depleted, the player loses. When a boss reaches the core, the player loses. So like I said, there are 3 types: flying, ground, and there's a boss. The boss reaches the core, instant, lose, no matter what. Kahit na full health C player. Next, the player must keep the monsters from reaching the core by building towers. Yeah, tower defense. Towers can be built on buildable or valid nodes only. So this is up to you. We give you the freedom to choose whether you want nodes or do you want like a general area or a collider, right? Kung saan lang pwede mag-spawn ng towers or where can you place the towers. So that's up to you. So yeah. Next, player wins the level after surviving the last wave. So if they reach the last wave, they killed the boss, player wins. Shows the victory screen. Questions here for the game rules? None. Okay. Mechanics. So here's your level. Your level consists of multiple spawn points for the enemies, and the layout is usually 3 lanes. And these 3 lanes, they go to 2 towers. So it doesn't say here, but in the milestone, kailangan you need to have multiple towers. Sorry, not towers, cores. Okay, so all the enemies are going to those core depending on whichever the lane they're in. Enemies naman, they're very simple. All they have to do is walk to the core, and all they have is health, move speed, the type, which is ground or flying, their enemy type, which is normal or boss, and gold wave. Yun lang. That's all the properties that consists of the enemies. So when the wave advances, only the health and the gold drop scales up. So the higher the wave, the more health they have, the more the more gold they drop. So prepare different variations. Uh, in the Unity 3D tower defense template, there are multiple naman. You have like literally these ones. All right. So towers. Oh wait, questions here for the enemies and for the level. No? Klaro naman. Gets naman, no? Simple. Okay, towers. So tower building. So towers are built via UI. So there you have UI, and then the player has to click on the button for the UI. Let's say for the assault cannon, it clicks it, and there will be a ghost that appears, a tower ghost. Right. So you need gold to acquire a tower. When you place it, the gold decreases. So it's not when you click on the button. It's only when you place the tower, then the player loses gold. So they're placed in buildable nodes. So again, it's your choice if you want an area or if you want a node. So that's up to you. You have that freedom. And finally, tower types. So this is where it becomes a little bit hectic. Turrets, they're the general tower, right? They just fire at a single target. It fires at a high rate uh area for it to target. It's only the closest. So it will only change the target until the current target walks out of range. Right, so there's turret. The missile tower, when the projectile reaches the enemy or the look destination, it will splash damage over an area. So same thing. It hits the closest and will not change the target unless they walk out of range. But it only targets ground units. It cannot hit flying units. So there's one that's another modifier pa. So only ground units. Next, laser tower. The laser tower applies a burn status or a burn debuff to a single target. So burn deals damage over time. Hitting a target with a burn status only refreshes the burn timer. So that's all it does. It won't stack the burn, it will just refresh the timer. So again, very fast attack rate, just like our turret. And same thing, it targets closest and will not change target till the current target walks out of range. EMP, All it does, it applies a slow status or a slow debuff to all targets within its range. The slow status is not removed immediately, and the EMP does not deal any damage. So it targets all the enemies within the radius of the tower. So the moment an enemy goes within range, slow right away. And if you have two EMPs that are overlapping each other, they just slow down based on yung higher level. Okay, so that one that doesn't actually say there, but that idea, I mean, it makes sense. It shouldn't be stacking each other. 100%, it should not be stacking each other. But how you implement it, up to you. If you want it, the EMP closest to the target will apply that effect and not the one yung isa, kayo na bala. Yung salvage naman, it just generates gold every 3 seconds. And additionally, when a enemy is killed within the range, they get the salvager will generate the same amount of gold. So let's say you're generating 5 gold every 3 seconds. If an enemy dies within range, it will shoot out another 5 gold. Alright? So yun. Finally, the power generator, which applies the overload status or the overload buff to nearby towers. So what it does, it only just increases the fire rate of the tower. So this only affects towers that have a fire rate, and again, it doesn't deal damage. So this one, unlike everything else who is targeting enemies, this targets towers who are within range. So that's what you have to think about when you start creating your base class. How do we do it so that the base class is able to work with all of these? Or if not all of these, how do we create components so that it could properly work together? Okay, questions here? Clarifications? None? Gets nyo? With the towers? No way. Tower upgrading and selling. So all towers can be upgraded. Upgrading a tower increases the effectiveness of the tower's effects, and they can be upgraded through the context menu. So when you click on a tower, there will be a UI that appears where you could either sell it or upgrade it. And the upgrades are based on the effects that are indicated here. So in this case, Salvager gets more gold, Generator increases the effect of the overload, don't mind this. EMP increase the slow effect and radius. So yun, you'll have to think about this when you upgrade. Towers can also be sold for 50% of the total gold spent on buying and upgrading. So if you bought a tower that costs 100, it can be sold for only 50. If you bought a tower that's 100 and spent 50 on the upgrading, so that's 150. If you're going to sell it, you only get 75 gold. Okay? Clear on this also? The upgrades and selling? Okay. For the screens, you have multiple screens. So the images are just sample layouts, but it's up to you how you want it to look like. But it has to have some parts, such as the core health. This is for the game HUD. The core health, the gold, level progress. It's not here. I think later up there. The level progress, like which wave you are. The wave progress, meaning it's a bar saying how much enemies are left pa. So it tells you, it gives the player a indication how much there are left. You have the tower shop here on the lower right, and finally the settings and pause button. Right, so you need all of these. So you'll see enemies are that reach the core are counted in the progress. So you have to find out how do we get the progress of how many enemies are left. So that's something for you to think about. The pause menu is as simple as just a restart and close. That's it. Just restart and close. You don't need to describe what kind of level you are in. So if you press settings, it's either restart, close. Level complete, and again, has restart or, well, it doesn't say here, but you can close. Right, so the screen is displayed after clearing the game. You don't need the stars. You don't need the main menu. There's, okay lang. Level failed, same thing, restart. It just shows when the player died or the player's core's health reached 0. And yeah, 3. Those are just 4, sorry. 4 screens. Game HUD, pause menu, level complete, and level failed. It's all the HUD that you need. Questions, clarifications? None? Gets nyo naman? Okay. Alright, I believe you guys. So, ito yung mga milestones. So, you have for milestone 1, enemy pathing. You need to have the player health. So, pag-isipan nyo, how do we combine the health of the course or something? So here, we have layout. 2 lanes and 2 cores. So, for this one, the question of what should be C++, what should be blueprint, base it on the milestone. If it says C++, enemy C++, base C++ class for all enemies. So, you need to have a base class that should be C++. Same here with spawner. The base C++ class for spawner. So it must contain spawn logic. Okay, so these are C++. Everything else, this, it doesn't indicate, if it doesn't indicate if C++, it can be blueprint. Display player's health, 100% should be blueprint. That's UI. Or here, well, delete spawning, that's under spawn logic. Assigning waypoints, kayong bahala kung gusto nyo maging C++ or blueprint, but this is way easier with C++. Wave data asset. It says here, create a C++ class to represent the data for each wave. So, C++. Wave progression could be blueprint. UI, 100% always blueprint. Okay, so that's how you differentiate if it's C++ or blueprint. Basta, you just have to, you just have to read the milestones. If it says C++, 100% C++. See? Okay? Even the health component, C++ yan. Okay? What else? Monster HP. Yeah. So that's how you know. That's how you know if it's C++ or blueprint. For the grading of this, I think you should see it also in Big Sky. I believe it is 60, 20, 10, 10. Let me double check from our syllabus. There. So the syllabus is GAMPRG2 requirements, which is your milestones. That is 60%. Code quality, that is 20%. So as long as malinis yung code nyo, you can get this. If you have a code that is, for me, quite unique and something I would not have thought of, and it works well, I'd give code quality. But if your code does not follow like the proper syntax, then mag-minus ka. Mag-minus ka ng ano, code quality. Aesthetic, as long as you have sounds and you have um, a mesh or models, aesthetics is all good. UX, we have UX here because again, it's up to you how you code your controls. Either you want a menu that pops up and drops down if you press on it. Maybe you want a different way of placing the towers, like click and drag. Because usually you just click, right? Click on the tower you want to spawn, then click again where you want to spawn it. That's the usual. But if you want a different one, like click and drag from the UI into the level, sure, why not? That is up to you. That is 10%. Okay? So, very important pa rin. Very important pa rin ang ating milestones. It is 60%, which makes up, uh, so project 2 is 80%. So, 80%, 60%, you do the math. It's still quite a huge chunk of your grade. Okay? Questions, clarifications, more on this. Questions, clarifications here. Wala. Okay. Hintay ako sa ano, sa message ni Sagani, pero di dumating. Okay. So kung wala kayong questions, let's go have a short lecture lang on path finding. More of like a, more of like, first, pero wala ko, ay, sorry. More of like a, let's all brainstorm together how we should do pathfinding. And I'll tell you which one might be a problem, which might not be. Okay? So, first question is, let's say you have a map. You have a map that goes here, here, here. This is your spawn point. This is the core. First question, how does the enemy know what path to take? Let's say you have an enemy here. How does it know where to go? Anyone? How would our enemy know which path to take or what direction to go to? Waypoint finding. So what kind of waypoint finding? Should it know just where the core is?
Sir, kaya po bang inam sa ano? Di ba kaya mag-inam, di ba?
Ang enums are mostly used for like types. It's not really used. Because the enum is basically like a index, a integer index, but it's named. So meaning this, let's say, like si types. Ang types natin we have ground and fly, right? This I will use for enum because it tells me instead of using just 0 and 1, we can use ground or fly. But basically, they are just integers of 0 and 1 lang. So that's enum. You wouldn't want to use enum to put in like like locations or data, whatever. I- it's not something na no, not used for it. Anyone else? Someone said waypoint finding or waypoint find. How if waypoint finding? How what does it need? Let's put this beside each other. Anyone?
Or an array of waypoints po.
An array of waypoints. Array of waypoints. So these waypoints, what should it be? Is it vectors? Is it actors? Or maybe its own class, a waypoint class. All right. So what should this array be? So lahat to, kinda correct naman. You could use a array of vectors, array of actors, array of waypoints, but there are some that are better than the other. And there's some na maybe you have something else in mind. What does this mean? What if kapag vector, sure, we know all the locations. Let's say naglagay tayo ng mga locations here. At least the only thing that the enemy knows is I have to follow these vectors. I only have locations lang. So, okay, sure. Okay yun. What if actors? Kung actors tayo, kung actors ang gagamitin natin. So, what we'll have is like for each actor, we have like a actor, get actor location, no? So you have get actor location for each of the actors in this array. But the thing is, we also have access to every other function or properties the actor has. Maybe we could even get its rotation, get actor rotation. Oh, bad. Or maybe get actor scale, right? We have so many functions that we can access with this. And how can this, why would this be a problem? If our enemy has an array of actors to tell it where to go, what kind of problems can we reach from this? Anyone? None? Can't think of a problem? Okay. The problem is, what if you have another programmer? Programmer. Oh my god, I have bad handwriting anymore. Programmer 2. We have another programmer who has access to this code. And kita niya, oy, mayroon akong listahan ng all the actors. What if he does something to it? Maybe change the locations through the enemy, or maybe we might delete, maybe delete the actor itself. That's a problem because sure, for us who coded this, hey, we know now we're just going to use these actors for the location. But give it to someone else. They now have access to other things. They could do other things to it. And it will, may or may not break your game. And that's the problem. Kaya sometimes we maybe just want to have a specific uh, data. Kasi we just want locations to go to. Kaya usually vector, okay lang. Paano waypoint class? The waypoint class, this is what you're gonna find online. Okay? The waypoint class. Waypoint class. Ang usually ginagawa is they don't, online, they tell you, instead of array, you have only one reference. The very first waypoint. Waypoint 1. Oops. Waypoint 1. This waypoint class, usually it's an actor na parang kapag pumasok si enemy within the what you call this? The collider of the waypoint class, it will tell the waypoint class will tell the enemy to go to the next waypoint. Sasabihin niya yun. Sasabihin, it's gonna give another data. So, anong data na yun? If I recall, so waypoint class kasi naglagay sila ng parang may index sila. Index. And then they have next. The next index. Oh, bad writing. Pero yun, it has those properties na sasabihin niya, okay, this is the next index. Ipapasa niya to sa enemy. And then enemy, usually ginagawa, they gets all the ano eh. Si spawner has all the waypoint by using get all actors. So there are things na sure, this can work. This can work naman as long as you know how to implement it. It has some drawbacks, sure, but makes sense rin eh. Na instead of enemy knowing when to go next, something else tells it na okay, go to this next waypoint. So it has some benefits. So it is not completely a wrong answer. Okay? So those are some ways. So you have an array of waypoints. Either a vector, or maybe a waypoint class, or maybe just one reference to the very first waypoint. So pwede yun. Now the question is, how does it get this array of waypoints? Anyone? How will our enemy know? I mean, yes, sure. Pag sabi natin, the enemy will know where to go by following an array of waypoints. Question is, how does it get that array of waypoints? Anyone? Tag system. I mean, there is. Huh? Is it tag? Label. I think there is. What do you plan to do with the tag system? Because I think I know you're talking about like Unity with tags. Are you gonna find all actors with tag? Are you gonna do that for each enemy you spawn? Okay, right. So yeah. Unreal has a get all actors, right? But that's why we tell you don't use it because if you abuse it, it's gonna affect your performance by a lot. Why? If we use get all actors, either like from class or maybe get all actors with tag. I think may ganun. It will search through your whole level. Everything. All the actors in the level will be searched until it finds okay, these are the only actors that have these class or that have this tag. So why is that a problem? What if you have more than one? You have, let's say, four spawners, and each time it spawns an enemy, it will search the whole level, get all actors from class. That's gonna chug your the performance of your game. Now what if may Zerg rush. Pag spawn ka ng 100 enemies and you have 4 waypoints. Sorry, 4 spawn points. So in this 4 spawn points that's spawning 100 enemies, each of that was searching the whole class for all these waypoints. So imagine that na lang. So masakit, so it's gonna chug a lot. Chug your computer. It's gonna really lower your performance. Okay. So anyone else? How will our enemy get this array of waypoints? Good idea though. Good idea. But you'll find out now. It's we can do better. Wala na. Para sa inyo to. Wala maka-brainstorm? Any? Oh no. AIA kayo eh. Joke lang. Okay. So, one way for the enemies to know what array, I mean where these waypoints are, is our spawner. How? Our spawner will know where these array of waypoints are. So it will know, will have an array of waypoints. So that each time it spawns a new enemy, what it does is it will give this array of waypoints to the enemy. Right? That way, yung kay para sa'yo, Isagani, sure, you could do a get all actor from class dito sa spawner. So that means, let's say you have 4 spawners, at the start of the game, they run get all actors from class. Sure, that's fine, because later on, you're not gonna be calling get all actors from class anymore, right? So maybe it's just to initialize your spawner. That is fine. Compare it to always doing that for each time you spawn an enemy. Yeah, that's bad. So the spawner will have this array of waypoints, and it will give it to the enemy. And this is called injection or injecting. We are injecting this data into this class. And that way, our enemy will now have a waypoint to follow, and without chugging much sa performance. Okay? So your enemy class, again, if nakinig kayo sa 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 lecture natin kanina, we have gold drop, you have health, You have move speed, enemy type, um, I don't know, vehicle type, because if you're flying or ground, right? Enemy type is like either normal or boss. Vehicle type could be either flying or ground. So these are its properties. What other properties we can have? We could have an array of waypoints. So the data type of waypoints could be either a vector or you have your own class, waypoint class. So what it does is, kapag vector, kasi waypoint class, iba na yun eh. Kapag vector, you're always checking kung asan ano yung current waypoint niya that it's trying to follow. Why do we do that? So that we can check the current, if the actor location is near the current waypoint. So if actor location is near the current location, what it'll do is next, go to next waypoint. Right? So this is just a simple waypoint. We don't have to fuss over on AR whatever. You can go straight to the point. Kapag malapit lang siya sa current waypoint, it'll go na to the next waypoint. And this one, you could always check every frame because you're just checking the distance between the actor location and the current waypoint. Because may distance eh. May tayong distance. Distance. So, not so bad. We have a distance function when it comes to vectors. Okay, so we have that. Kapag waypoint class, ang code niya usually is within the waypoint class. Does mean na parang if actor is the enemy, sasabihin niya, hold on. No, nangyari. If actor is the enemy go to next waypoint. Sasabihin ng ganun. Both are okay. Kayo bahala kung paano nyo i-implement. So these are just like an idea for you. Okay? Questions here? Gets nyo ba? Gets nyo ba yung injecting? So we do injection usually so that we can save performance. Because we don't want our enemies to always getting where the list of waypoints are. All right. Questions, clarification? Anyway. Sure, gets nyo. Sige. Kung gets nyo, let me just open Unreal in a bit. Okay, so about that list of array of actors, I'll show you something. If we create a, let's say, spawner. Ang sabi ko is, di ba better if array of vectors? But the thing is, waypoints. if sinabi ko an array of vector, so I made it public para makita sa sa in-game. Let me put a cube para makita natin. But if I do that, if I show it up here, it takes a vector, right? But I am unable to actually like put in, oops, a vector data here. So if I lock this, if I try to drag, let's say, um, window, base actor, let's say this is spawn point, waypoint 1, waypoint 2, I'm unable to just drag it in and give it the location. So Unreal doesn't really support that. What it supports though is to create a array of actor references. So if I click on spawner again, ayan, ito na yung array. Let me just delete. I can actually just, di pala, drag in this actor into the array. Okay? So, okay. So, spawner could have a waypoint of actors, but I would suggest that when you inject this waypoint data into the enemy, gawin mong array of vectors instead. So again, I suggest that para much cleaner. Para si enemy will have its own things na, just, but it's not depending on actors. It is really just depending on itself to follow these certain locations and to reach the end. Okay, so for you to make it from actors to vectors, you will have to manually do it. So like, uh, what happens is maybe make this a vector, and then on begin play for each, I will just get the location, get actor location, and just literally add it in the array. So this happens at begin play. Because in begin play, it should know already. It should have a list of waypoints, and then on begin play, it'll put it in a new array, and then we can just shove this in or inject this in the uh, enemy. So I would say this one's way better than just giving the actors. All right. So I think your code, if you're gonna code it sa C++, if you're gonna literally inject it's what it'll look like. It'll just be uh let's say ang pangalan ng sa enemy, yung waypoints are waypoints. Tapos yung bagong i-inject is itong waypoints. It'll literally be just our waypoints is equal to waypoints. Ganyan to sa C++. What it looks like in Blueprint is you have a array of vector here. So imagine this is the enemy. Is array of array of vectors here, and then the enemy is his area of waypoints set. It literally looks just like this in function in Blueprint, pero of course that's C++ dapat. Okay? So yun lang yung suggestion ko dito, because if you were to make this to vector, it is very tasking. Unlike this, you can literally just drag these actors here. And then pagdating sa enemy, maybe just give a array of vectors instead and make it follow that. All right. So yeah, questions, clarifications? No? Gets nyo naman? No? Yes? Anyone? Or mga gets nyo kapag gagawin nyo? Alright, sige. Yeah, that's fine. Medyo, yeah, lapit na undas. Mga gets nga pag nasa on-site class. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gets. Alright. So yeah, that's it lang for today. If you, this will be uploaded naman for you to watch next time in case you're gonna do it. So that will give you an idea. If not, sure, pwede kayo mag-search online how to create a waypoint system. Kayo bahala. As long as it works, right? So, ayun nga. Better you don't follow it to the dot. You learn by failing. And that's alright, right? You don't learn right away. Hindi naman talaga eh. You learn more if you fail. Wag lang sa class. Okay? So yeah, that's it for today. You guys can go and have a happy long weekend and ingat kayo as you visit your deceased, I mean your passed away relatives.